Today I have my dad for my audience, my grandma, and my stepmom. An innocent 6-year-old boy was abducted and killed, found with a severed head in a canal in Florida. The world has made this one of the biggest cases in the world. Today I want to inform you about what happened to the 6-year-old boy and take you through his case. I want to inform you of how the evidence was lost and who the suspects were. I also want to inform you about John Walsh, who started the show America's Most Wanted. Criminal cases like the Adam Walsh cases are very hard to solve. First, I'm going to tell you what happened to Adam Walsh. According to History.com, Adam was at a Sears department store with his mother, Rave. Rave allowed him to play in the video game aisle with some older boys while she looked for lamps nearby. 10 minutes later, she looked for Adam and he was nowhere to be seen. Investigators learned that the two older boys were kicked out for getting in trouble by the security guard, and Adam Walsh followed them. The scared boy failed to mention that his mother was in the store and he was kidnapped that day outside of the store. Adam's parents were devastated, and they started a huge hunt for the child. On August 10, 1981, Adam's severed head was found in a canal on Vero Beach in Florida by two fishermen. There was no body to be found. However, after they found his head, there was no body to autopsy, so they started to just autopsy his head. His mother knew it was him, but there was no evidence because the doctor who did the autopsy failed to sign the paper and there was no proof of the autopsy. Now I'm going to talk about the actual case. The case was devastating and confusing for sure. According to Miami Herald Sheriff Department, this case became the nation's most famous child abduction case. It launched John Walsh to raise awareness and start the show America's Most Wanted. During the case, a famous serial killer, Otis Toole, had confessed to killing Adam. He said his partner Henry Lucas had helped him and cut his head off with a bayonet. They soon realized that Henry Lucas couldn't have helped because he was in prison at the time, so Henry Lucas was off the list. They couldn't convict Otis Toole either because there was no way that he helped him. But then they started to just search more into Otis Toole, and they found blood in his car on the carpet, but somehow the cops actually lost the evidence of that too, so there was no charge that could be committed. The cops soon realized that Otis couldn't even tell the investigators the color of Adam's hair, the color of his eyes, the clothes he had on, or even the shoes he had on. So the cops started to think that Otis was doing this for the fame and he wanted credit for doing it, even though they don't think he did, because they also found that Otis failed to identify Adam on the missing person file. Otis claimed he buried Adam on 126 of Florida Turnpike, but the investigators found nothing. There was no body to be found. Since cops lost key evidence and there's no body to be found, Otis could not be charged for the killing. During the case, there was a lot of evidence lost. As I've said before, the cops lost the evidence. There was dentists lost records of Adam's x-rays of his teeth, and the reason that is important is because they were trying to figure out if it was for sure Adam of the head, because he had a filler on the right side of his mouth, but there was no records to be found to prove it. And then the doctor forgot to sign the papers, and all the cops lost the evidence on Otis. The case couldn't be solved, and there was also no DNA testing at the time. There were other suspects, such as Henry Lucas and Jeffrey Dahmer, who were spotted at the parking lot that day. Witnesses say they saw him, but cops soon realized that the witnesses were off because Henry Lucas was at prison that day, so they started to just look into Jeffrey Dahmer. According to Herald Sheriff Department, Jeffrey would kill people, cut their heads off, and put it in the freezer. As they investigated, they soon realized that Jeffrey was sick, and he would take credit for the crimes that he committed. When the investigators asked Jeffrey if he committed the crime, he said no. So they figured he didn't, but they had to have proof. Jeffrey actually died in prison in 1994. Jeffrey was off the suspect list. Otis Toole died in prison in 1996 from AIDS, and he was not tried for Adam's death due to dying and loss of evidence. Although the case was not closed, the cops closed the case. That way there is peace around the world and in Adam's family. That was according to biofree.com. Now I'm going to inform you about Adam Walsh, Adam's father. According to NBC News, Adam Walsh started the show America's Most Wanted to put 1,000 people behind bars. He convicted serial killers, rapists, and put child abductors behind bars. John Walsh also wrote many books to channel his grief, and according to crimemuseum.com, after the case was closed, the case became the world most known around the world. And a bunch of people were trying to get justice for Adam and his family and raising awareness for kids around the world. In summary, you have learned today that Adam Walsh was abducted outside of the Sears department store and his head was found in a canal in Florida by 2 fishermen. You also found that there was no evidence that it was Otis Toole because the cops had lost it, and there was a lot of other evidence lost. You learned that the suspect, Otis Toole, died in prison in 1996 when he confessed to killing Adam twice. The case was closed to give peace to the world, and John Walsh made the show America's Most Wanted. If you have any kids, a brother, a sister, or any loved ones you want to protect, my advice is to keep them close to you and never let them out of your sight because the world is a scary place. Thank you.